Hello, guys. We are back for another episode of the Wspr Podghast. I am your host, Sean. This is
Maxine, hi.
today we are going to be discussing Culross Palace. We are one of the only teams that's actually done Culross Palace, other than a TV show, which I won't mention the name because that's free publicity. So we did Culross Palace last year, the day after Halloween, so November 1st. The episode is live on YouTube, so if you've watched it, awesome. A wee bit of history, I suppose. Culross Palace was built in 1611, so it is a very, very old place. This kind of changed up the investigation for us because Culross Palace is being so old. There's a lot of equipment we're not allowed to use. We can't use tripods because the floors are so old and there is a serious risk of us knocking something over and damaging something. So investigation wise, the kind of techniques that we had to put in place were definitely different.
Back to like what you used to do at the
running
very
about
start.
with everything in your hand, slipping things in pockets.
Yeah.
The other thing as well is the floor has like a weight limit, so it limits the amount of people that we can go. And when we did this one, it was kind of a secret special thing before we announced to the team that we were like given access to the place, because nobody gets access to this location. It's pretty much just it's just been us, actually. There are public tours and stuff like that, but for behind the scenes access to do an investigation the way that we do, we've been very lucky to be able to actually get access to this place. So investigation wise, it was a lot smaller. In the episode, you'll see myself, Maxine, and one of the curators, Linda Whiteford. The other team consisted of a couple of investigators, which included Zara. Zara is one of the founding members. She was in the last episode, and it included her wife Mags and one of our investigators, Kirsty, who's been in the team pretty much since the beginning of the team.
It was nice to have a smaller investigation.
Yeah.
Because normally our group's bigger.
Yeah, unfortunately, because of the cost of venue hire, it usually requires us to bring about 10 people to an investigation. So then you're having to work out all the scheduling and placements for teams so that there's no contamination. So it was nice because we were able to basically do a small team of like 4 and a small team of 3. With Culross.
I was going to say it was also good because it's separate buildings.
Yeah.
So you can separate.
Yeah. So Culross is got 2, completely separated buildings. There's the north wing and then there's the south wing. So the good thing is when we're doing those investigations, we can have one team in one building, one team in another, and then we can completely cut out any chance of contamination between any of us. So with Culross as well, because it's quite an old place, we have to take a member of staff with us, which is why we ended up with a situation where Linda came out with us. But I did invite Linda out because Linda herself does paranormal investigations. She has her own team that she works with called the 3 a.m. Club. I'll give them a wee shout out. Just because it's been fantastic that Linda has allowed us in to actually do the kind of work that we do. Slightly different in the way that we do things. Linda's team are more sensitive to paranormal activity. They can communicate.
They do mediumship.
Whereas our team is pretty much mostly filled with people
technical.
Technical.
More technical, and we're full of a lot of skeptics.
Yeah. So it's interesting because then you can go in and you can sort of work around the other person's techniques and styles of investigation and include your own. So yeah, with Culross, really, it's an interesting place. It's old as hell.
Yeah.
Just equipment wise, things were, was very different than what we're used to.
The first investigation as well, we took less than we normally would.
Yeah.
Like we took even less equipment than we normally would.
Yeah.
We did because we didn't have the Estes We didn't have.
Yeah, we didn't do.
We didn't have the. I can't remember what it's called.
We-
The little
so,
box with the lights. I cannot
the
believe I'm
Ovilus.
spaced. Yeah.
No.
No.
Sorry, the REM pod.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can't believe I spaced on that.
So we did have the equipment with us, but because it was two separate teams, we have a limited amount of equipment. So the team that did most of the filming in the episode which was our team. We kind of focus more around the audible experience and the actual visual experience. So we did all the filming, whereas the other team didn't have the luxury of doing that because equipment wise, you know, the camera that we use is like 800 quid. It's not a cheap camera, and it's my own personal camera. So for us to be able to afford to be able to film in so many locations, it unfortunately requires money.
And normally we would have CCTV that
Yeah.
we could then use, but we don't have that in Culross.
Because of the limitations with like the flooring and stuff. And yeah, it kind of got the choice between one team would be more focused on like the personal kind of experiences, because if we can't document it and we can't showcase it, we can't really include it as a piece of evidence. The only
Do you want
thing
to
that,
explain what a personal experience would be like
So-
classed as?
so a personal experience will be like, you know, if someone said they were touched, well, we can't really document that. You know, there's no way for us to document that at all. Unless someone was, I don't know, had been scratched or there was a mark left. But
But even then,
unless
you
you
can-
have it on camera showing that there was nothing that was
Yeah.
done in that moment, it's
and
not.
you can maybe document the aftermath, but again, the actual it happening is
There's
you
there's
don't tend to
literally
get
no
that on
way to
camera.
document it. So for us, basically everything is classed as a personal experience if it's off camera, because there is no way for us to prove to the public that
Yeah.
there was no tomfoolery done. And obviously as a team, we are not interested in doing any of that kind of stuff. Because I'm not going to believe another team if they came forward to me and went, hey, this happened. I'd be
Yeah.
like, do you have it on video? And if they're like, no, then I'd be like, well, how am I supposed to believe that?
I think it's also like hearing things that unfortunately then doesn't pick up on a camera, or seeing something that again isn't on the camera.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't believe them, it's just it has to class as a personal experience because we can't.
Yeah, if there's no,
verify.
exactly. If there's no audible like recording on a camera or an audio device, there is literally no way for us to say to the public that happened, other
Yeah.
than just the investigators in that moment had that experience, which actually happens in this episode. So that'll be good because we can kind of highlight that. But yeah, like with Culross, it's a lot of personal experiences. Like, as far as, so we returned to Culross this year, but it was the 2nd of November because we wanted to try and get in a year from the day that we had done the investigation. And Culross actually finishes up for its season on Halloween. So we got in this year and we tried to sort of focus more on filming everyone, just so that we could make sure we were documenting stuff. This year it was a little bit more difficult because there wasn't as much in the way of staff members, so we kind of were pushed into a situation where we all had to remain together. But we did get access to another building in the town, which was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Because there's a few buildings kind of in the same area that are owned by the National Trust, and a lot of their staff were having experiences and they wanted us to come in just essentially as a tester to see if we would pick up on it without them telling us what was happening.
I think it was also to see if a whole separate team that didn't have any knowledge were getting the same things as what they were getting.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, with Culross, unfortunately, the other team had most of the equipment, like the spirit boxes and stuff, for them to be able to kind of do more documentation that way. But unfortunately, we can't show it in the episode because we don't have enough cameras to be able to film
Which
everything.
is a goal.
What-
There is a
yeah.
goal to get
Yeah,
another camera
exactly.
so that we have more.
Yeah, there's a goal to get more
Yeah.
equipment. So most of this episode is basically just it's experiences between me, myself, and Maxine and Linda. There's not a lot of like audible experiences that have been documented, at least the last time we visited.
Yeah.
Again, it was more personal. There was a lot of experiences like even at one point we were both in the same room and I'd literally just opened my eyes and I just saw this white kind of misty shape.
Yeah, because I don't like
across the floor.
Because I saw something I think at the same time as
exact
you,
same
but
time.
I don't think we actually saw the same thing.
No, we didn't.
Because when I was in the room at first, I thought, oh, okay, right, we must be. But when you then described, I was like, yeah, but it was different.
Yeah. And
So-
you were getting a lot of experiences of like
Mm-hmm.
being in a spot and then seeing, at least as far as I remember you describing it, a
In the room
person
upstairs,
shape,
yeah, in the room
person
upstairs.
shaped like black mass,
Yeah.
usually somewhere in a doorway or something like
No,
that.
in the room upstairs, it felt like he was standing, I'm pretty sure, to the side of me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this was like a year ago, but
Yeah.
like, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was to the side of me. It felt like someone was just stood and
Yeah.
you could sort of see them, but then.
Yeah, it's kind of a like. Part of me wonders how much of it's like an atmospheric thing, because when we were talking about it this year when we went back, because it's such an old building, and with the way older buildings, they used to just build a new wing on, build a new extension. You get random dips in the floor.
Yep.
You get random, like you walk through a doorway, suddenly the top of the door's lowered, but then there's a step that goes down, and it kind of throws you off.
Yep.
It's not like being in a modern building where everything's nice and flat and uniform.
Yep.
Because when we were in the strong room, when we were leaving, you guys had left, and as I was walking out, I swore that I had seen what looked like
Which is unusual for you.
Yeah, because I don't tend to see things on investigations, but it looked like a child-sized, like, just shadow stood at the side of the door, and that room has 2 windows, and one of the windows is right there, so there is light coming in, and even I was just kind of like, I walked through the doorway and I was just like, that was a bit weird. And Linda was like, what's up? And I was like, I just swear I saw someone standing there. And to me, it was like child size. It was just kind of, it was odd.
Yeah.
I don't get those experiences. Do you think there's really going to be any episodes I'm going to film where I'm going to say that? Because it's just not something I deal with.
Well, yeah, when things happen to you, it tends to be audible at most. But
those ones are documentable because I always have a camera.
Yeah, and it's always on the camera. Yep. Because I stood at the other side this year, the other side of the room, just to try and see if maybe it was, and I didn't get the same feeling.
Yeah.
But other team members were, but none of them were standing where I was stood, and nobody got that same thing happening.
Quite a lot of the experiences this year again were like very, very personal, but again, this time we were able to more document it because the team was together. And I'll be curious once we actually do the review, because the way that we are doing things right now is I'll do a lot of the edit and review work through winter, because the Christmas January month, it's, you know, with birthdays and the Christmas holidays and New Year, it's
our quiet year. It's our quiet time, and that's when
no one can afford to go out and do a location that's like 500 quid, because they're not cheap.
Yep.
So you're that's the kind of break period for us. So once I get to go through it, it'll be interesting to see if there was a lot more stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have some audible stuff that happened that like, for clarification, is like when we are...
Yeah, we got stuff even though we, like, obviously our team, we got stuff even though we only had cameras. Yeah.
And the way that we always do things with our investigations is we'll usually, to the best of our ability, call out when something's happening. And on that investigation, I will say there was a lot of like stomach noises that everyone kept having to apologize. We're like, oh, I'm so sorry, that was my stomach grumbling or yada yada. But we have a couple of audible experiences that happen in 2 different buildings, which we'll obviously go over. They're the exact same experience, which is even odder. And just one of the other things I suppose I'll mention is just that if you remember, I used to have a camera on a small sort of like handheld rig, and I attached a mobile phone holder. And don't get me wrong though, the mobile phone holder, I will 100% admit, doesn't actually fit the phone, because the phone that we use is a rugged phone, so it's quite thick.
Yeah.
It's got a built-in thermal camera and a built-in night vision camera. It's a fantastic phone, a Doogee S98 Pro. So if you're ever looking for like a phone that has thermal and night vision for doing things like filming, like even if it's not to do with ghosts, but you're out doing like urban exploration and stuff, get the Doogee S98 Pro. I don't know if they're still producing it, but it's like, when we bought it, it was about 500 quid, but it's like 268 quid now. Fantastic phone. But it had slipped out of the rig and landed on the floor, which was fine. But at the same time, my 4K camera randomly just popped up with an error going, the files were corrupted. Would you like to recover? And I was like,
a chunk of footage, didn't we?
Yeah, and it's never happened. I've had this camera for 8 years, and I've never had that happen except that one place. And we actually ended up losing a good half of the night worth of footage. So quite a lot of this episode is done in thermal because I use the phone at the same time as a thermal imaging camera. So yeah, we lost quite a bit of footage, unfortunately, but it still made a good episode, and
it was a fun investigation.
Yeah, it definitely was. It's also just, again, it's cool. We're one of the only teams that have actually been in the place,
and we got to go back, which means if like, I think, see, when you go in, especially your first time, and you have like, call it like a stripped down version of equipment, and you're getting something, and then you're able to go back, and luckily because we were all together, we then had all of the equipment in the one room, and we'll see what we get from that, and if there's even more.
And then also, the cool thing about it is because we do have slightly different investigation techniques in the team. Me and you are quite, I would say, like, I don't want to use the word logical, but like,
we like our tech. We like it to be, it's on the camera, it's audible, so that if we are reviewing for things like our YouTube and stuff, everybody can see and hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if that's what's happening,
there's less likelihood of someone being able to like argue against it and say, nah, man, it was this.
Yeah.
Because we can literally sit there and go, well, it's no, because if everybody's on camera, but you're getting voices coming through that sound nothing like any of the team members, because the return that we did, actually both times we've been there, I'm the only guy.
Yep.
So you would expect if there's a male voice to come through that it's going to either sound like me or not.
Yep.
Whereas the first time we went, it was all female voices that came through. And with Linda's side of things being more psychic mediumship, in the areas where I was getting those voices, as far as in her workings with the location, because she's worked there for, I think she said something like 12 to 18 years. It's quite a long time, I'm pretty sure. Or that might have been her one of her colleagues, but Linda's worked there for a very long time. She, as far as in her workings with place, there's no female spirits in those locations. So it's a bit odd that we got female voices coming through.
It can always be that, spirits aren't, or I wouldn't say spirits are like locked to an area.
We wouldn't, and obviously attest
you could
to
also
that,
think of it in the way of, because no one's ever been in before, maybe the spirits were, I don't know, doing their nosy, popping into places that they normally wouldn't be.
I suppose. See, for us, that's how we would see it, because
like if someone randomly popped into my house, I would go have a wee look.
Exactly. You have a wee gander. We are not psychic mediums. We're not sensitive. We don't necessarily buy into a lot of that kind of stuff. It's not for us, because we don't have that ability. Our only ability is to document through cameras and microphones, etc. And just try and be really like, use the resources that we have to try our best to try and make concrete evidence happen through lines of questioning, through responses.
We have a few though that are more like sensitive, or I don't know if anyone on our team calls themselves a medium though.
No,
I don't think so.
I think we've got some folk who would say they're empathic and sensitive. In the case of when they go to locations, they end up usually being quite affected emotionally by changes in rooms.
But even Zara, for instance, she doesn't say in herself that she is a sensitive or a psychic or a medium or any of it, but she seems to have a lot of those sort of experiences.
Yeah, especially because when we filmed the Sterling jail episode here, the previously, she was talking about how when I did my first line of questioning with her when I visited that cell, her and Amanda were like, "We think there's a guy in here called John." And then when I did the review later on, when I was in another cell and I had asked, like, what is your name? For me, when I listened back to the audio, it sounded like someone had said Jack. So we were like, John and Jack's close. I know it's not bang on the money.
But that's the point. She doesn't claim to be exactly, but if you're getting something similar, then
exactly.
Maybe. And it's happening to her at Culross as well.
Yeah, and with Culross, she had a lot of experiences of like...
And it was both times, wasn't it?
Yeah, both times of being like touched, like excessively touched.
Yep.
And obviously, so the way that we'll do these things is we'll usually sort of get someone off into their own space. No one's near them for us to be able to document this. Now, obviously, for the public, you guys have to take either the word of the investigator.
Yeah.
You guys can't really, you're not the one experiencing the touch. I will say, in pretty much all the investigating I've done with Zara over the last 8 years, there hasn't been really any places where she's had those experiences.
Yeah.
Whereas it's both times that she went to Cura, she's like, and so Zara being deaf, she has cochlear implants. And this time around, one of the ways that we tried to test it, because we were having some kind of like changes on the EMF detector, and I had realized and went, hold on a second. I was like, stick the EMF detector to your head, and it went off like a Christmas tree because her cochlear implant puts out a signal constantly, and it was picking up that electrical impulse.
Yep.
Or pulse, sorry. And so she took her cochlear implant off and slid it across the room, and she was pretty much sat there in the pitch black. The only thing she would have been able to see was some light shining on my face from the visor. And I ended up like basically turning my face like this to let the camera block my face, because I was like, right, let's just make sure she can't even lip read.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start asking things like, touch that side of her head. And it just was constantly happening. Like, this is something we'll go over in the next episode, obviously, next year. But she just constantly was getting these experiences.
But it's worth mentioning because it happened both times.
It happened both times, yeah. And some other members had experiences of feeling like they had been touched in locations where, again, it was pretty much impossible for someone to have been able to touch them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, when I'm on this place, like the visit I did this time, I'm literally stood there like T-pose, just like, feel free, touch me. I pull my ponytail out, let my hair down. It's never happened to me. Not once at Culross. So I unfortunately don't have that experience.
Yeah.
But members of the public have reported the same thing.
Yep.
So,
and that's the thing, these experiences, they don't happen to everyone.
Yeah.
If they happen to everyone, I think it would be a lot more people would believe.
There'd be less people. Yeah,
there
exactly.
would be a lot more believers.
Yeah, there'd be less. You wouldn't get scrutinized as much doing ghost hunting or paranormal investigating. I know some people don't like that term. Unfortunately, it's drilled in my brain just because Ghost Hunters International.
Yeah.
You know, it has been a word used in the paranormal scene. A lot of folk, especially in Scotland, don't like it because it feels too
gimmicky
or attacky. Like you're going in there to like mess around with spirits rather than going in and respect the place. Because a lot of the locations we go to, they're very much about if you're not showing respect in the building, even if you don't believe in ghosts, for them, even if they run the place and don't believe in ghosts, they're still like, listen, if there are spirits here and they were the original inhabitants that owned this place and built this place, at least show respect. And if you can't and you're going in and you're...
I agree with that, though. I do. I agree. You see, like, on other TV shows and things like that, people are trying to, like, rile potential spirits up and things like that. And it's like you wouldn't do that in a lot of other situations, so probably not the time. Yeah. And if something is being aggressive or whatnot, like, I don't think we've ever really had anything I would call it aggressive, but obviously other teams have. It's just, why would you want to go in and make that worse?
Yeah,
you know,
like yeah, the most that we'll do sometimes is you might get a bit more animated, especially if someone's having an experience. Like, I can admit at Stirling Jail when Robert had his experience, my then line of questioning went to more, why are you affecting Robert?
But
there has been people in here all night and you've done absolutely nothing. But when there's an individual person in here on their own, that kind of feels a little bit more vindictive. Not necessarily bad, but when loads of people have been in that room in groups, even if up to 2 and you haven't done anything, but you wait until that one person's on their own.
Some people, I think, are just more like susceptible
to that kind of like
to being like, and it doesn't have to be the same person every time. It could just be maybe someone's got something going on in their life. Maybe someone's, I don't know, it could be something as silly as maybe you haven't ate enough that day and it's like sensing a lower level of energy and it's able to, like, it could be something like that.
Yeah, there's loads of ways to look at it. It's,
questioning, because I'm pretty sure I remember your questions that time, and it was then you were asking for it to then do it to you. So that, but again, that's asking for another level of like validation to make sure that if it does then transfer to someone else, you can go, right, well, at least even if it's not as documentable as you would like it to be.
There's a level where you can go in and start then being like, right, okay, look, we have documented, you've done this to someone, do it to me, call it out, be like, show how strong you are. Like, come on. Some people might see it as sort of being a tacky to if there was spirits there.
I see it the same as, like, for instance, when we're at Culross and someone's touched, and then we have the other team members going, right, well, can you touch, like what you did in the other room? Yeah. Can you touch me? And then standing with your arms out, like, feel free, come and, like, I don't really see it as being much different from that. I think it's more attitude. You get some people that are really, really aggressive and they're like verging on shouting in the place. And I don't think that's necessary.
Some people that do that.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's necessary. And the good thing is our team, I'd say, is quite respectful. There's no one that like goes in and
we're respectful enough that we've been allowed twice through permission of the National Trust to do Culross, a place where they have had, basically no teams in because it's so old.
Yep.
And we've been trusted twice now, and we've had no word any way given to us that we wouldn't be able to return in future.
Yep.
And that's kind of the goal for us, is to get access to as many historical, reportedly haunted places in Scotland to document it. It's also fun for us, and it would be nice to, after all the work we've done in almost a decade, to be able to go, we've done a lot of places that people wouldn't get access to because we're just going in and actually taking the investigation serious, and we're treating the place with respect, and that's kind of the goal.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, because I have worked with people that are like that, and when you're spending a night of investigating and someone's running about literally threatening to headbutt ghosts, which has literally, I've witnessed people do that.
My God.
Like, it's taken that, someone suggested that at some point we should do like breakdowns of like other TV shows and stuff like that, and it just reminds me of Ghost Adventures. I have no bother saying that, but like Ghost Adventures, every episode they go in, there is something demonic and they try and fight it. And that, I think, was the attitude that was persistent at that time with that team that I was working with, was just that they thought the best way to get something to happen is to go straight in and bang, build the energy up. The thing is, as
well, is I feel like if you're going in and you're acting like that, it's going to affect everybody else on your team, because if you're going in and you're calm, the rest of your team are usually quite calm.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going in and you're being like aggressive and things like that, then the other team members are probably going to start doing the same thing, and then you've got people who are all really hyped up.
Yeah.
And when you're hyped up, your memory isn't as good, so you might accidentally brush against someone and there's now a noise on your camera that you don't remember. Whereas if we're all calm, we're all stood apart from each other, we're all aware of our
situation, the sounds we're making, the things that we might not knock over.
Like, I just think it's more reliable.
Yeah, it's one of those things about like the whole de-escalation tactics is like, it's easy to de-escalate if you start from here and build up, but when you start from there, like
you're in like
that's it, like, and I think that's the kind of point as well, is like everybody investigates differently. I mean, our team is quite a diverse group. Like, we all have people with different sort of disabilities and things like that, and when you're going in with people who might even have social anxieties and stuff like that, it's kind of difficult to go into an investigation when someone's running about screaming and shouting and trying to literally fight.
That wouldn't be. That's not fun.
And it just ruins the entire mood.
Yeah.
So we're gonna now look at the kind of evidence pieces that we brought from the episode. There's not a lot. It's like literally you can count it on one hand.
But unfortunately, we did lose half of our.
True, because the problem is the thermal camera obviously has a different microphone than, say, the 4K camera, which is 7.1 surround. So there is a high chance that there might have been things that would have been picked up on that one and not the other that unfortunately we have completely lost. So what we're going to do is we'll bring up the first clip and we'll just have a discussion about it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be that comfortable because I don't want to be stuck in a small space. That's someone walking?
No, it's like it was almost like swish.
So that's Linda. Obviously she has way more experience with this building than we do. She works there pretty much every single day of the year. The funny thing is when you listen to it, you can definitely hear it's like dum, dum, dum. And then at the end when she stops with the swooshing, you can hear a further kind of bump sound.
Yeah.
What I heard was walking.
Yep.
And the thing I think's funny about it is part of me is like, was there something closer over her side because she was at the other end of the room where she was hearing that? And I'm like, that would have been a really cool experience if it was both. Like you were hearing the material of someone walking, but at the same time you were hearing their footsteps.
Yeah.
For me, 100% it was footsteps.
I can hear the what sounds like walking.
Which didn't actually happen a lot that night. Like one of the big kind of reports of Culross is like people will visit, especially like staff members will come in the morning and they're like, it sounds like there's a party going on in the room above them because I mean these are really old floors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reports of like people seeing spirits, like full body apparitions in this place. Yep. One of them's called the Cavalier, and that's because he's dressed up in a typical like Cavalier guard outfit, and he walks around on one of the top floors. Now, we obviously tried documenting, but none of us have had any visual.
Yeah, unfortunately, because that's the goal.
Yeah, nothing visual experience like that. Seeing a full body.
The goal is seeing and capturing something like that on camera. And to clarify, we are the only people in that building.
Yeah,
it's you, me, and it's Linda.
Yeah,
that's it.
This is the north wing. We're on the very, very top floor.
Yep.
But between you and Linda is this weird like little cupboard bit.
Yep.
That there's no other cupboards in the building like that. Yeah. It's just it seems to be like either it was like put in later, and you can see with the walls in this place it's like all the original wood paneling. Like when they redone this place and restored it, they took all the original wood paneling and tried to protect it and get it as clear as possible. So it's old. I mean, those panels are like 400 years old. So for us to be hearing walking like that, it was either, I mean, in this room, it's like you come up this little staircase and right where the stair stops is another lip up that takes you into a room and then up onto ours. So there's nothing in that area to walk about. It's not like there's no like balcony or anything. So either it was something walking on the stair, which is the only part that's wooden, because I'm pretty sure the floors are carpeted in most of the rooms. There's a layer of carpet, something really thin, but the stairs are totally wooden. And yeah, it's weird. I don't think, as far as I remember, hearing any footsteps anywhere else in the building.
No, I don't think so.
It's mostly just audible things of like people talking.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting that Linda, like I said, she felt like she heard what's in the like material swooshing, whereas for us it was footsteps. Yep. We'll play the next clip. This will be clip number 2, but there's only 3 other clips after that. So with this one, it's in the middle of the clip. You can kind of hear like a
and you're in the room by yourself.
I'm completely in the room by myself. So this is the same room. What happened this time is I had asked Linda and Maxine to move off into another room and keep the noise basically flat. Don't make any noise. Just let me investigate for 5 minutes. We thought we'll try and see. The reports in that area is that there's a lot of activity centered around men. The spirits don't really like women. A lot of this is in connection to I did some history research on it. So as far as I have found, the person that had built Culross, one of the original owners, was a part of the Masons, and historically the Masons were it was a fraternity. It was male only. Yeah. The reports, as far as I'm aware, I think was there might have been meetings hosted there on behalf of the Masons. So this would have been a room full of men who don't traditionally have women in that area when they're doing things like Masons meetings. I know the Masons now have women's chapters and stuff and they're more open to it, but back then it was very much strictly, as far as my research went, male only.
Yeah.
So we thought we'll put me in there for 5 minutes. I've done work in Masons lodges before. We've done, went in as respectful as we could, tried to document experiences that some of the brothers were having, because in the Masons, they call each other brothers. So we thought we would try and see if we could entice things by basically putting me in there, because I already had experiences with the Masons, to see if the spirits there, I don't know, maybe wanted me to join the lodge. Yeah. Just to see what we could get up. Nothing happened. You'll see me moving my hand and stuff. This is just me testing and moving my hand and seeing if eventually I feel anything. Is there any cold spots? Does something touch me? Nothing happened other than picking up that which again sounds like a woman, which happens later on in the evening again, but this time it happens in the completely other building. So we'll go on to the third clip, and then once we're done with all this, we'll have a discussion about things.
Yeah.
So with this one, you can't hear it. This starts on the episode with me and you discussing the fact that we could hear talking.
Yeah.
Now, these buildings are separated by a decent amount of distance. We are, as you can hear in most episodes, quite quiet. I sound much louder because my mouth is literally right behind the microphone and the camera. We could hear talking. We weren't sure if it possibly was coming from outside. The thing is, though, I will point out with like Culross, this town is teensy.
And it's you're far away from.
It's so small. You're far away from all the other buildings. When we've been there, the most that you'll see is people coming out of their house, going out their car and driving off. Very, very little movement of people.
Also clarify, we are there very, very late.
Yeah, like 1 a.m. I think.
When most people are not doing a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. This is probably, the later end of the night, like 1:30 in the morning.
Yep.
So we were like, okay, I thought I'd throw it in just to point out that we, again, kind of got another audible experience. The walking's a little bit more concrete because we're not going to be picking up people walking on wood from buildings that are a distance away.
Yeah.
The only buildings actually next to Culross are the ones that we just did.
Yeah.
Which are actually all owned by the National Trust, but they're cafes and things like that. There's no one actually staying in those.
Yeah. So they're empty.
Yeah.
When we're in there.
So, we were kind of like, it could be people outside, but again, we were like, I hadn't really heard anything like that through the evening. So I thought I'd kind of include that one. We'll check out the next clip. Oh, I genuinely didn't see that panel and just headbutted it. Yeah, I kind of just wanted to throw this one in because sometimes things like this happen. So at Culross, they have glass windows, but on the inside, just for protection of the original windows, they have these little thin panels of plastic. You can't see that in the pitch black.
It's also when you're stood with a camera
with a glare constantly in your eye,
so it means when you're then moving away and you're in darkness, you can't really see.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think I was hearing probably talking or noises, and I was like, that must be coming from outside. I'll just check, and I literally went to walk my head up to the window, and I headbutted the panel. So things like that can happen. So I thought I'd just throw that one in, that I headbutted a window at Culross. Yep.
A panel, not the window.
A panel, not the window.
Yeah.
A plastic panel.
Yeah.
Not an original feature.
Yeah, jeez. Let's just clarify that. So.
Yeah. So, you need to be careful in the dark. That's why we have insurance.
Yeah.
Very decent insurance. Luckily, we've never had to claim it. I haven't broken anything yet. But accidents can happen. We'll play the last clip, which is ties in with the other evidence from earlier.
We came here to hopefully communicate with you. We very much appreciate being in your home.
So yeah, I mean, you can hear it clear as day. I didn't have to do anything with that. There's just two random responses. Yeah. This is one of the areas where, as far
it's not me because I'm asking questions.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to be answering my own
Linda's
questions.
done this longer than us probably.
So it's not.
She knows not to.
Linda was also good as well because when her stomach growled, she was the same as us and was like, "That was my stomach."
We got one in that room, that last clip where you were stood and we thought we could hear talking, where it was like. And we were like, what? And she was like, that was my stomach. That sounded so good as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like, damn. But yeah, Linda was cracking that night on at least being able to call out that, because she had been working the entire day, because they were the conservators were in wrapping up everything and taking everything out of the building that needs to be protected. If it's not in season, there's no point in it staying there in case anything happens. So she'd been working the entire day, and the poor woman hadn't actually had a proper meal yet, so she was starving. But she powered through. We got the investigation done. Yeah. I mean,
the room we're in, like,
it's called the Stranger's Room because it was essentially, it's got its own staircase in, but also connects to the building. So there's a staircase outside. There's a staircase in the ground floor, which is where the like kitchen is. It takes you in as well. But then there's this other little step up to that one, because it was where guests would stay. And then on the floor below it, totally detached from the rest of the building, is where like their servants would have stayed. Yeah. So it's called the Stranger's Bedroom. It's where guests would stay. And as far as like at least the sort of info that we then received, because when we did Culross, we went in and said we don't want to know anything.
Yep. Because you don't want to be led. You don't want to be accidentally, like, you don't want to. If
someone wants to take us around and give us a wee historical tour of the place, we'll say omit details that could connect any evidence. We don't want to know dates, people's names.
We also usually ask them to like refrain from talking about any specific hauntings that people report. That way we're not then
led to find the same exact thing. And
that way if we do, and we then, because at the end we'll then ask, right, okay, this is our evidence, this is what we've got. Yeah. Does any of that match up? And if they then say yes, we can go, right, okay, well, we got that without having any prior information.
And in both spots that we had those female voices, it's funny enough areas that people don't experience female spirits.
Yep.
One of the things I remembered, because we were talking about it, like trying to refresh our memories about this investigation, is kind of because of the way that we are scheduled for work throughout the year, it's too short notice for us to also edit and then also do podcasts. And maybe in future we'll get to the point that we can do that, but we kind of want all this stuff to like roll out in the dark months, you know, around Halloween. It's Halloween, it's the spooky season. Why not watch us? It's great. We're actually talking about spooky stuff that happened to us. It's great. And we were sitting at one point, and they've got this massive, like, I would say it's like it's an eating hall banquet kind of room thing. And me, you and Linda were all sitting on the bench, and every single one of us like a similar experience. We're just like, there's like just this random like cold tickly draft hitting us in the nose. We were all experiencing like sensations on our faces, and we're all like separated along this bench. And that was when the phone fell and my camera got corrupted, which was even like and then I think the other thing that I had noticed as well when I went and did the review was when we were walking through the banquet hall with a thermal imaging camera, you can see the areas that are hot and you can see the areas that are cold, and we always laugh our heads off because when someone's been sitting in a spot and they stand up, you can see the imprint of their butts, which is funny as hell. But there was just random like foot-sized like hot spot underneath the table, as if someone had been sitting there, but it's only 1 foot. The whole rest of the floor is completely cold except this one spot, and I'm just like, that's a bit weird. Odd. But as far as evidence went with Culross for us, again, personal experiences, a lot of people being touched, sensations like that, seeing things out the corner of your eye, which we don't tend to get. It's actually very rare for us to go into a place and be like, man, I'm seeing stuff. But
for me it was quite odd, because we were stood, what's the name of the room? The room we were in, when I thought I was seeing the guy standing next to me, because that was the same room that Zara.
That's the same room that I tried the solo experiment stuff.
Because was that not the same room Zara was there?
That's the one that the report is where they might have had Mason meetings.
It wasn't anything super. I didn't see like a a full on anything, but like it's not something I can say I normally experience in like my day-to-day life.
It
was enough that I pointed it out in the moment and was like,
But then in that same spot, so for clarification for this, because again, we lost a decent amount of like the footage from that evening, which was an absolute bummer. Even because we had done a bit of investigating later in the night with the rest of the team, and literally I couldn't include like any of it because it was all bust.
Yep.
And there wasn't really anything there that was usable for evidence. But Zara in that same spot had felt like someone had pulled her ear towards the door like this, and she was like, what the hell? She's like, somebody just pulled my ear towards the door.
Yep.
And that's the room that when we returned this year, she was sat in the middle of the room and she's like, someone's touching me. It'll be interesting once we go. I don't want to talk about any of the evidence from this investigation because I was about to, but then that defeats the point of watching the next episode. So a lot of personal experiences, lots of just folk having weird things happening to them. We don't often get that. Culross is weird that way. We'll see this year, based on the slight change of the way that we did the investigation, if we're going to get a lot more audible experiences, because we certainly aim for communication that way.
It was funny because both times we went, you were the only guy.
Maybe
maybe next time we go, we should take some more men and see if
there's any experiences.
Get more.
Yeah, because just to point out as well, I was like, I didn't include it in the episode. I don't think the cupboard room. I put myself in there as a solo experiment.
Which is funny because initially, earlier on, you were like, I don't really think I want to go in there by myself.
No,
you were like, I don't think I'm going to be comfortable.
I was like, I don't want to go in the cupboard. I don't want to go in the cupboard. It's not even a cupboard, honestly. It's more like the size of like a modern flats bathroom. It's actually quite big. There's like one single panel window though. So I just sat the camera on it and I'm stood there in the pitch black and I'm trying everything like touch me, let my hair down. Nothing happened. Creepy putting yourself in a cupboard where you've got to slam open the door and get the hell out. But nah, it's quite peaceful. It's a very relaxing place. I definitely think if you want to see somewhere, and also to point out, it was the filming location for quite a lot of episodes of Outlander in Culross Palace. Check it out. Go do a tour. There's a lot of tour guides,
it's
really famous ones. Yeah. It's probably less spooky in daylight. We're doing it in the pitch black. Other than, funny enough, the south wing, both times we were just like, there's like low ambient lighting, like these little like plastic electric candles that they've got for aesthetics, and we're just like, you can just leave those on. There's no like, there's a lot more stuff in those wings. You don't want to be walking around in the dark and hitting stuff by accident. So, whereas the north wing, both times we've done it complete pitch black, it's just blackness. But the one thing I will say, you in both times you went had the same damn little flashlight. And in the same place every single time your flashlight wouldn't work.
And then I'd walk back outside and
it would work again. So we're in the north wing and she'll be like clicking it and she's like, this thing's not working. It's not turning off. And she's hitting the buttons like, why won't this work?
Yeah, it either won't turn off or it won't turn on when I'm in there. It was
constantly flashing and we're just like, right, there's other modes to this thing. And she'll be walking down the stairs like, I can't see. So we'll have to like put on flashlights with the phones. As soon as she walks out the door, click, boom.
It worked
again. Really every single time, the north building.
I'm not taking that one next time.
Try a different flashlight and see if it just doesn't work. But
I'm just gonna go for one of like the old school click. Like I'm not taking that wee one because
I
would definitely say that there was enough from Culross personal experience and the evidence that we got that, on our opinion, there's something there. There's
definitely something there with the amount of personal experiences that we've had on both occasions. For me, for the public, I'd like to get a lot more documentation.
But we might have.
Well, true. Next year's episode.
Yeah.
And then probably next year, if we chance it and we've got the time and the availability and the funds, we'll be able to go back to do Culross again.
And we'll take a slightly different team and see if that changes up
the way that everything happens. Maybe try and increase the number of men. Maybe have some more cameras if we can eventually get there.
I think based on personal experience, Culross has something. There's something. I'm always one of those people, I don't want to turn around and be like, Culross has full on, you know, like there is definitely something.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard for us where we sit as investigators to be like, that place is haunted.
Yeah.
It's a rare occasion that we'll find a place where we will go like, nah, that place is weird. Culross is definitely, at least from the first visit, was strange.
Yeah.
The second visit has given us a lot more clearance to go, right, that place has got something going on.
Yep.
Once we do the review, we might go like, nah, man, that place is haunted.
Yep.
Like, I think the way to put it is there's enough experiences with the public. I mean, the way that they're doing it now is they're actually documenting and writing all the experiences down. And as far as we were...
It's just, obviously, we lost half of our
footage.
So it's more, in our opinion, Culross has hauntings.
Yeah.
It's just... we weren't able to document as much
if you
as
can't
we would
watch
want
it as a member of the public, you might be like, oh, well, if you got some of the experiences from the public who go, you'd probably yourself be like, nah, the place is haunted.
And if you do go and do a tour, I'm sure if you get Linda, she'll be more than happy to fill them in on some of Culross's more...
And like I said, they're documenting the experiences that the public are having.
You can read it on their website though, can't you?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, the National Trust is quite good that way, that they have like haunting sections for all of their locations.
So you might actually be able to read it on their website.
Yeah.
That might be.
But go experience.
Don't quote me on that though, just in case like you can't.
Yeah. Go experience it yourself. I mean, look, if you've had an experience at Culross Palace, put it in the comments. Let us know.
Yeah.
Even if it's this or on the episode, let us know. We'd be really curious because it would be interesting because we could tie it in with Linda and be like, member of the public had this experience. She might even have it documented already.
Yep.
Let us know if you've had an experience, and if you've never been, check the place out. There are Outlander tours and things like that visit the palace. Maybe you'll have an experience, and this is during the day as well that people are having this, whereas we are there at like, 1 a.m, 2 a.m, 3 a.m doing this in the dark. So we don't really have any sort of Q&A stuff to answer this time round.
Try and get them for next time.
Yeah, we'll try and get some Q&A stuff for the next episode. If you guys have anything you want to ask us for the next episode, just stick it in the comments. Even if it's on Spotify, let us know. And for like release schedule, we have one of the episodes releasing tomorrow, which is the Stirling Jail evidence breakdown, like what we're doing here. One of the things I will say, because I was going to say, like when we're talking about like haunting places, we can definitely, I think, agree that Stirling Jail is haunted. We've been there twice, and both times that place is weird as hell. Staff members, funnily enough, are just like, no, I don't really get many experiences in here. It's quite a relaxed environment. It's like nice for some people. When we're there in the middle of the night,
I think part of it's also like if you're if you're going in and you're not like, for instance, if I work somewhere, I don't want something scaring me. I don't want to hear footsteps when I'm walking up a hall. So like, I don't know, maybe like you give off that vibe, like just like, please leave me be, and they'll leave you be. Whereas we're going in and we're asking for, So maybe it's more like that.
Maybe it's more like that, yeah.
Because I wouldn't want that in my work. I wouldn't want to be freaking out.
Weird place, but we're gonna wrap up this episode of the Podghast. One day I'm just gonna say the Podghast, and I'm not gonna say it really weird. The schedule, we have an episode releasing tomorrow, which is Friday the 8th, and then this episode will be releasing in a couple of weeks. We've got another episode to release on YouTube, which I think is the 18th of November, and then we'll have another podcast to record for that episode, which is Menzie Castle. For social media links, you'll find us pretty much anywhere on social media under WSPR Scotland or West Scotland Paranormal Research. We do our best to go live on location now with the CCTV system, so we do have an investigation coming up in December. If I'm correct, it's December 3rd. Check our social media just in case I've got that wrong, and that's terrible because I'm the organizer and I'm the one that does these bookings. But we'll be trying our best to go live. We've never went live at this place, but we've investigated this place. Oh God, I couldn't even count on my fingers how many times we've done this place. We always go back because there's always stuff that happens. It's not always in your face, but because we and it's local. It's a local place. It's somewhere local to Paisley and Renfrewshire. We're going to be doing it again. And this time we're going to live stream it, and what we're going to do is really, really focus this one last time on trying to connect a bunch of the evidence that we've previously got
So tune in.
Yeah, and recreate things that we've had happen, just so that we can definitely sit down when we do the review and go, we had that happen the last time. Yeah. We got it again. There's something happening in that place. But yeah, thank you for watching the Wspr podcast. Yeah.